What's up, Live to Thrivers? Welcome to another week's podcast of Live to Thrive podcast. I'm your host, Lizzie, and I am here with Sean. Sean, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hey, how you doing? My name's Sean Garcia, and I am the founder and coordinator for Astrochemistry Consulting. We specialize in de-escalation and crisis intervention training techniques for frontline responders. I am currently writing a book called It's Not About You. It's almost done, just had to take it in a different direction. But it's something for everybody. You don't have to be a frontline responder to learn from the book. So
Yeah.
I'm actually revising the book with personal stories and memories that people can relate to, instead of saying, here's 10 steps to how to be a better person, and they know nothing about you because nobody's going to buy it.
Yeah.
So I think that personal touch is extremely important. Humanizing the experience when someone's having an emotional mental wellness crisis is the first step in bedside manner if you're going to be a frontline worker.
I love that.
And I've seen too many situations where people become overwhelmed. There's no self-care, and they tend to react badly, forgetting why they signed up for that job in the first place. And now the person you're being paid to care for, you're pretty much making their situation worse. So this is just something I want to leave humanity before I leave this planet in 47 years.
No, I love that.
Go ahead.
No, I love that. And so, I just want to kind of go back to the start before we go into your book and your career. And so, Can you tell me, where were you born and raised?
So I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I'm a product of the 1970s Detroit, Michigan. My father was a Detroit musician. My mom's an angel. My father passed away 5.5 years ago. My mom's still here, and she's out here with me in Colorado. I have 2 boys.
Okay.
And what really, really got me into this was I really started noticing both boys are on the spectrum, but they're on the opposite ends with these completely different personalities. And you really don't learn yourself until you become a parent, or you're living with someone, or you're married, or you're forced to hold that mirror up to yourself. So when I was a police officer, I went through a crisis intervention training class to get certified to recognize signs of emotional distress and lack of wellness. That led to me really having a love for it. And I started doing coaching work on the side for other, with the guy that got me into it, and doing it for other law enforcement agencies here throughout the state. So I've worked as a coach and an actor, and I liked it so much. I just kind of I felt like there was more. I didn't want to just stay locked into the first responder, because a lot of those skill sets that we teach in that 40-hour class to get certified, you have to take the 40-hour class to be certified in CIT, but you can still do a 1, 2, or 3-day class just to develop those skills, if that makes sense. So I ended up I was like, okay, I like what I do. I love what I do. I just felt like more people should hear about this. So I'm not reformatting the skill set. I'm really just making it more relatable to everyone, because this is something husband and wife can use on each other, business partners.
Yeah.
And it's just really just 3 simple things generally that I break it down to. One of the things is that we don't allow ourselves to be human, because you're a frontline worker and you feel you have to protect yourself and have these walls up, and that makes it harder to relate to someone who's having a crisis. The other thing is we all forget to be kind, because we're all human and we lose our patience. But being kind is a really, really, really big deal. Okay. And be genuine when you talk to these people.
Yeah.
If you're a frontline worker, have thick skin,
Yeah. I know you spoke about being a police officer, and your work there. With all the controversy that happened in 2020, did that change your mindset about being a, a police officer and building your frontline tools? Like, how did that affect you as a person?
That is a great question, and I'm gonna keep it 100.
Yeah,
So I quit being a police officer January of 2020, right before COVID hit. So I wasn't involved in that stuff and the protests and things like that.
yeah,
Um, I left the industry for different reasons. It had nothing to do with the community. It
yeah,
had nothing to do with the people that I served. There are other
mhm,
reasons I won't go into,
yeah,
which is why, why I left and never went to any other agency.
yeah,
Um, and that's another book. I don't know. So
yeah, maybe. So you left January 2020, and then when did you start astrochemistry?
I started astrochemistry April of 2022. Actually, while I was contracted with another dude that does it, the guy that
Yeah,
got me into it.
yeah,
And I just said, you know what? If I don't do this now, if I don't take this first step now, I'm never going to do it. You know how you always have that window and you're at crossroads and stuff like that.
mhm,
And I'm just kind of like, I gotta do this. So I took the first step. Um, really knew very little about running a business. you know, um, my mom worked for the phone company.
yeah,
Half my life and retired from there. My dad was a musician, and you know how that goes. So,
yeah,
you know, but he was there. That's the biggest thing. My father was there raising my brother and I. So that's more valuable than any platinum hit or
hmm,
going gold or whatever. I think it was Les Brown who said, "It's not what you leave your children; it's what you leave inside of your children."
yeah,
And that's very, very important. And now, I'm the oldest of two boys, and I'm raising two boys. So
yeah, yeah. And as a parent of two boys, African American boys, how do you, talk to them about, going out in the world and being very kind? Like you said, that's one of your missions is to be kind. How would you tell them to like um deal with that? Because I feel like sometimes the world is an ugly place, and I'm not a parent. So how do you like protect your children, first of all, and then second of all give them like that encouragement to be kind to people that don't understand where they are in life?
well, the world has certainly changed since the 70s and 80s. And I'm
Hmm.
not saying it was that great then, but what we didn't have to put up with, they have twice as much to shorten their attention span.
Yeah,
Everyone's on their phones, everyone's wearing earbuds.
yeah,
We didn't have social media. Hell, I mean, really, I can't believe I'm writing a book and really no one reads books anymore, if you really
yeah.
think about it, which breaks my heart because I'm a writer. I
Hmm.
mean, and I read like 9, 10 books a year, whether it's audio or I sit down writing it. I'm a reader, as much as
Yeah,
I write. But as far as the world that we live in for my two boys and the hypersensitivity that comes with that culturally, it's not easy. And it's very easy to say, well, I'm just not going to have kids. I don't want to bring kids into this world. And at one point, I remember feeling like that. And everyone has a choice when they say something like that. Everybody does. Okay. So people say, well, you were here to procreate. Maybe, maybe not. I
yeah,
think we all have a purpose. I don't think everybody's purpose is the same. But
yeah,
because I was saddled with this and I became a father later in life, I think everything's happening the way it should. So, for example, I'm raising two young men who were born in the United States who happen to be young men of color, but also my view, because I'm a big science guy, my view of the world is a universal view. I'm raising world citizens. I'm not trying to raise the best dude on that block because the world is so much bigger than that block, that region, that city, that state. because I was in the Navy too. So, you know, that's really all I have to go on. You know, my story is
Yeah.
a little different than a lot of other people. My mom and dad were married for 50 years. I've seen them go through some hard times. We all grew up together, right?
Yeah.
I was born 9 days before my mom turned 19. My
Oh
dad
wow.
was 22. So we all grew up together, right?
Yeah.
And there's no manual on how to be a parent. You do the best you can with what you got. And you don't realize that until you get older, until you become a parent. And you're like, oh man. Because there are days where, like, you know, I'm divorced. I've been divorced for 7 years. And I'll be honest, there are days where I feel like I'm failing miserably. I'm not going to lie, and it messes with me. But I
Yeah.
go to sleep every night knowing I've done the best I can. So I raised them with the mindset that it's okay to slow down. Okay. If you get pulled over, they're not driving yet, but I got my 16-year-old, I'm teaching them how to drive now. If you get pulled over, okay, if you get pulled over, ask for a CIT officer so that they'll understand you're having a mental health crisis instead of just not complying. And then they end up on the news and a bunch
Yeah.
of families' lives are wrecked forever. That's like a horrible, horrible thing.
And you said something that I'm not even familiar with. What is this CIT officer?
Okay, so the CIT officer is what I was, crisis intervention
Okay.
training certified. So when I was
Yeah.
a police officer, I attended that class to be a certified officer to recognize signs in my line of work.
Okay.
And that's the first step I took that got me into it before I continued to educate myself and starting my business and getting my certifications and things like that. So
That is interesting. I actually never knew, like, I never knew that there was like a specific officer called a CIT officer.
yeah,
I feel like people need to know those things. Like, do
yeah.
you, yeah, because I feel like
So
I did.
we had a situation here in Denver a couple of years ago, right? Few years ago. It was up in Coal Creek, or something like that. This kid locked himself in the car, this young man, and he was having a mental health crisis episode. You
Mhm.
can still pull it up on YouTube, you can still see it. Long story short, they ended up breaking the window and killing this guy. At one point, I think he was even like asking for his mother, and it didn't have to go like that. You know, this kid happened to have been, he happened to have been white, Caucasian. But that doesn't make it any better. You don't want to see anybody lose their life. You don't want to see a
100%.
family have to go through that.
Yeah.
So a lot of the trainings that I've done in that area up in Summit County was in response to that. Say, okay, we can never have this happen again. But also, like, obviously, I'm a man of color. I've had my own run-ins. I've caught hell, even as a Black police officer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've caught hell from my own community. You know.
Yeah.
Well, and in my heart, you know, and I've had people say really, really horrible things to me, like, you've been trying to kill us. How can you do this job? And it's nothing like that. Is
Yeah.
there a philosophy that you buy into as a police officer? Absolutely. But I will tell you this, it was one of the best jobs I ever had because every day was different.
Yeah.
Every day I got to walk around and talk with the community and connect with people. And they can see this person of color cared about everybody.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And how do you deal with your mental health? Because I feel like going through like a lot in your life, you know, you've gone through different, you were in the Navy or the military, and then you became a police officer, and now you have a business. Like, how do you stay positive? How do you like talk to yourself? Can you give us some advice on how to, you know, be a little bit positive in this day-to-day life?
I would be happy to. The first thing is, if you're going to get into serving people, you have to love everybody. If you're going to be in leadership position, if you're going to be in the power of authority, you have to love everyone. You don't have to like everybody, but you got to love everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
I give you the perfect example. Okay. You've had presidents that have gotten up there and said, hey, I want to make things better for everybody. And I think you know who I'm talking about. And they truly
Mhm.
show it. It's reflected in their cabinet and people they touch when they're out. Then you have other people that have been presidents and they co-sign ignorance. They find a way to continue to divide. There's no accountability. If you're going to be in a position of power, you have to love everybody. And if you don't love everybody, you have no business being there. Even as a politician, in management, leadership, if you don't love everybody, you have no business leading a group of people. So one of my big things has always been, I love everybody. I allow everybody to be themselves. I've never learned anything in a room full of people that thought just like me. I have the emotional maturity to sit there and listen to a difference of opinion. And I'll say, well, why do you think like that? What happened to you? And they'll tell me, hey, nobody's ever asked me that before. Well, my daddy thought this way, his daddy thought this way. And I just always thought that's how the world is. I say, I respect that you say that. I say, well, after meeting me, talk with me, what do you think? Oh, well, clearly there's more to it than that. I think my being well-traveled has a lot to do with it. I think my emotional tone and maturity has a lot to do with it. We're not all born to have the same journey, and that's really unfair to society as a whole to think that. Or like everybody should be a Christian, or everybody should be a Muslim, or hey man, you got to find different strokes for different folks. Just make the world a little better than it was before you came. That's all. That's it.
Yeah.
It ain't about hitting the lottery. It ain't about having $1 million and being a celebrity. At your core, be a decent human being. It's okay to be different. You don't have to agree with everything, but have the emotional fortitude to say, okay, this is happening. I don't agree with it. And then we spend more time online preaching about it rather than getting out and voting in midterms, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like online culture now is getting kind of out of control. People are so quick to, go to social media platforms and preach their opinions, but they don't do anything in the real world to help. I feel like your business is literally doing the work and helping and seeing that there is a need for this in society. We have to make a difference. And if you could give someone advice about making a difference in this world and how to take that next step, what would you tell them?
Take care of yourself first. Self-care, because self-care is number one. Okay, so this is how I was raised: God, self, and family. Okay, if you don't believe in a supreme being, that's okay too, but you have to take care of yourself first. That's above all. You're the only one that's going to be with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I've struggled with depression. I've struggled with suicidal thoughts. I've struggled with lack of confidence. This is like all in the last 7 years. So like in the last 7 years, out of the last 7 years, the last 4, I really, really struggled. And that's ironically, it was while I was a police officer. I lost my father. I went through a divorce, got my heart broken twice. It's what I called my perfect storm.
Yeah.
The only difference was I was George Clooney in my own storm, but I was able to get out of that ship and make it to the surface. And a lot of people do not.
Yeah.
So self-care is very important. One of the things that I really did that helped me was I went back to doing things that made me happy as a little boy.
Okay.
Whatever that may be. For me, I love to cook. I probably should have went to culinary school. Okay.
Yeah.
Love to cook. I went back to reading comic books because I was reading, but I don't read a lot of fiction. I read a lot of self-help books, history books, biographies, things like that. But I went back to reading comic books. I went back to doing everything that made me feel good as a little boy in Detroit. And I started there.
Yeah.
And when that started, your confidence builds up. He was like, wait a minute, I used to be this person. I used to be fearless. What happened to me? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I love that.
And now I'm learning to be fearless again. The only difference is I'm a dad to 2 boys and they're watching me. So am I teaching them to cower, or am I teaching them to be confident and lean in by my healing? It's very daunting when you really think about it. It can be very daunting, but you can't hide. You can't cower. Look at it like this. How many times have you gone to a pier, by the sea where ships are moored and everything, and you see a beautiful ship? And a ship is beautiful, and it's beautiful right there by the sea, but that's not what ships are built for. Ships are built to withstand the tides, the currents, the storms, to get to that next destination.
Yeah.
So do you really have it in, not you in particular, but do you have it in you to make it to that next destination, to be what you're supposed to be? And it's a scary thing, but you have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, just recapping on what you said going back to your childhood and like rediscovering yourself. And I really love that, because I think we obviously, as you get older, you lose like who you were as a kid, because society molds you to be
Has
better.
these expectations that you should.
Yeah.
Well, here's how it used to be, and it's not like this. You used to be able to work one job for 40 years, 40 hours a week, retire on 40% of your salary, and now it's your life. Those days aren't gone. Nobody stays at a job for 40 years anymore. It's very rare. Unless you find a career and know what you want to do from early childhood, which is rare.
Yeah.
So my advice to people, as far as self-care to be better for other people, start discovering yourself. Do things you've never done before. Go zip lining. Go biking in Moab. Travel down through the South. Hit some of those towns and try some good food, man, and see some good people. Go up north. Go up through what they call the Rust Belt, with my part of town, the Midwest, and find out why those blue collar people are so beautiful. Because I'm from Detroit, and we're all beautiful people,
Yeah. I love that. I mean,
well, you gotta let them know, man. So my buddy got this shirt. He got me this shirt, and the shirt says, "Be humble, but let mofos know." Okay, I'm going to tell you something that I've learned. Never be ashamed of your skill set and your talent when you're doing positive things. Okay, and never be afraid to ask for your worth. Don't ever forget that. Okay, I'm not saying get all the money in the world, because here's the thing: people tend to forget money's a currency. If you get so much and you're able to pay your bills and help other people, what are you gonna do with the rest of it? You can't take it with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So enjoy, like, live your life, like you said, travel, like, see places, enjoy it.
I got friends I served in the Navy with who are gone. We're in the same age group. They're gone. They died. One of them died. He was from Philadelphia, dropped dead of a heart attack. And he was a fun guy when we were 19, 20 years old in the Navy and the world was new to us. Another guy, he was on the other side of the country during the pandemic. He ended up with prostate cancer. He beat that, just ended up dying from COVID, because COVID capitalizes on existing. Yeah, horrible, right? So it's kind of like, well, I've lost a lot of people, man, in the last 5 or 6 years. And I know people die, and the older I get, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But it's just, what are we waiting for, man?
Yeah.
That's why it was like, that's why I took my father had a production company. He put out one record to the public. And the name of the production company was Astrochemistry Productions. I've always loved the name and the logo ever since he came up with it. And that's so the name of my consulting company honors him, but it enables me to share this message that I have with humanity, because my message is not just a Black message, a brown message. It's a people message.
Yeah, it's a people
this message is for everybody. I want people to read this book and take something from it. So I have this phrase I say, everything's not for everybody, but there's something for everyone, you know?
Yeah, I love
Um,
that. And I really appreciate you being on Live to Thrive, because I know, life takes its course and we all get busy. So you taking the time out of your day is really much appreciated.
yeah.
And to end off Live to Thrive, I would like to get one last piece of advice from you, and then the social handles and your website where people can reach out to you if they have any questions. And then we will say goodbye.
Okay. All right. The first thing I would say is give yourself some grace. Everything's going to be okay. Give yourself some grace. Slow down, because whatever's going to happen is going to happen whether you worry about it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself some grace. Center yourself. And this is as far as the self-care part. And this was some wonderful advice my mom just gave me 30 days ago. She said, when you don't know what to do and you're overwhelmed and you feel like you need to do everything, it's okay to step back and do nothing.
Yes.
Not forever.
Yeah.
But when you feel overwhelmed and you're burdened, whether by grief, work, finances, and if you don't know what to do, it's okay to step back and do nothing and take a breath and just be. Give yourself that grace and say, okay. And you listen for that message. Where do I go? What direction do I do next? But you have to take a step, because that step's going to lead to the next few steps. But if you never take that first step, you're never going to get the message. You can't stay stagnant. And if you make a wrong decision, just turn around, go the other way. Don't beat yourself up. There's no manual for this. Well, there is. They say it's the Bible or religion and things like that. And that's a whole nother podcast. But I think you really have to trust your gut.
Oh my goodness. And so how can people find you?
Okay, so I'm on Instagram. My handle is at Astrochemistry_LLC. I'm on Twitter, ACTC Colorado, and I have my website,
Yes.
ACTC11.com. The 11 is like my favorite number.
Yeah.
The rest of the day I was born on say. So ACTC11.com.
Awesome. And I'll have everything in the show notes as well. So you guys can just click the link below.
Yes. And I would love to hear from everybody. If you even have questions, and I would love to come back and talk about the book when it's done.
Yeah, I would love to have you back to talk about.
I'll send you a copy, and I'll autograph it or whatever, and you'll be like, "Hey, yo, I know him."
Thank you so much, Sean, for being on Live to Thrive podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on here.
Thank you. You're a wonderful human being. Don't stop doing this, okay?
Thank you. And so that's all for this week's podcast. Listen in next week. And that's it from Live to Thrive.